Welcome back to another compelling chapter on our channel. In recent times, we've journeyed beneath the polished surfaces of musicians, digital creators, athletes, and public figures, uncovering the lesser-seen layers behind lives that often appear flawless. Today, we turn the lens toward a different world, the realm of actors and Hollywood icons, where image and reality don't always walk the same path. The figures we once admired and held in high regard often lived under a powerful spotlight. Yet beyond that glow lie stories that are unsettling and deeply thought-provoking. From moments that shook public trust to choices that led to irreversible consequences, today we examine individuals whose journeys dramatically reshaped the idea of a public fall from grace. Who among them left an enduring shadow on Hollywood's legacy? Let's uncover it together in this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're familiar with the spy comedy world of Austin Powers, you'll likely recall Random Task, the towering, wordless enforcer known for his unconventional footwear, a playful nod to a classic cinematic archetype. The performer behind this unforgettable character was Jo Sun. Born in South Korea and later raised in California, Jo Sun first made his mark in the early days of mixed martial arts, stepping into the UFC before finding his way onto the big screen. His appearance as Random Task brought widespread attention and lasting recognition, securing his place as a distinctive and often remembered figure within the franchise's legacy.
Behind the spotlight, there's a darker show where secrets breathe.
The laughter Jo Sun delivered on screen felt lighthearted, yet a far darker reality existed beyond the frame. In 2008, long after his rise to public recognition, he was taken into custody for an unrelated matter, triggering an unexpected and irreversible turn. At that point, newly collected genetic evidence was connected to an unresolved incident from 1,990 years before fame entered his life. As investigators revisited the case, the findings painted a deeply disturbing portrait, exposing actions that stood in stark contrast to his public image. And even then, this revelation marked only the beginning of a much deeper descent. In 2011, while already confined within the prison system, Jo Sun became linked to another grave incident involving a fellow inmate, Michael Thomas Graham, following a serious confrontation. The contrast was striking: a man once associated with humor and pop culture now fully exposed by the weight of his actions. The public image that once entertained audiences gave way to a reality shaped by irreversible choices and inner turmoil. His life ultimately unfolded entirely behind bars, ending in a sentence that reflected a long chain of consequences set in motion years earlier. Jo Sun's story stands as a sobering reminder that behind fame and applause, unseen shadows can exist, and not every story of success is what it appears to be.
Contracts, whispers, closed room deals, a smile that sells, a wound that heals, but justice.
In the early 2000s, Danny Masterson stood as a symbol of effortless cool through his portrayal of Stephen Hyde in That 70 Seconds show. With his signature curls, dark shades, and laid-back confidence, the character captivated millions, lifting Masterson into a world of success, recognition, and influence within Hollywood's inner circles. Yet beneath that polished image and rising acclaim, a far more troubling narrative was quietly taking shape, hidden from view as the spotlight continued to shine.
Let the victim voices light the flame, no crown, no camera, no applause can save.
Alongside his rise in acting, Masterson was also closely associated with the Church of Scientology, a highly debated organization often discussed for its strict internal structure and strong influence within the entertainment world. This affiliation later drew intense attention when serious allegations from the early 2000s began to emerge. Several women stepped forward with accounts that cast a long shadow over his public image. Yet what unsettled many observers even more than the accusations themselves was the prolonged quiet that surrounded them, allowing questions to linger unanswered for years.
Name the harm, we'll break the spell, disarm the charm.
Those who spoke out later described an environment shaped by fear and pressure, where voices were discouraged from reaching official channels. For nearly 20 years, the reality remained concealed beneath layers of prestige, influence, and carefully maintained appearances, as powerful networks within entertainment circles helped preserve silence. It was only when a broader cultural awakening took hold that long-suppressed stories began to surface. The courtroom proceedings in 2023 unfolded as a moment of reckoning, where emotional testimonies gradually stripped away the polished image, revealing a far more complex and unsettling truth behind the former television icon.
Cost of silence, the undertow will keep the art, but name the harm will break.
The lengthy sentence handed down to Masterson marked the consequence of a series of actions that had long remained concealed, while also cracking a barrier of silence reinforced by influence and status. More than a legal outcome, the case became a symbolic turning point, prompting deeper reflection on how belief systems, authority, and fame can intertwine within the entertainment world. Above all, it underscored the importance of safeguarding those who speak up, reminding audiences that truth, though sometimes delayed, carries the power to surface and reshape even the most carefully protected narratives.
When one brave voice breaks the chain behind the spotlight.
Shelley Malil, an Indian-American actor, once sparked genuine laughter through his memorable appearance in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, portraying a co-worker whose humor and eccentric charm stood out. Beyond the screen, Malil was often seen as more than a comedic presence. He represented persistence in the face of limitation, continuously striving to move past cultural boundaries and claim his place in Hollywood. His journey resonated with many, reflecting the belief that resilience and determination could open doors, even within an industry known for its intense competition and unspoken barriers.
If you feel safe, help others breathe. If you know truth, don't hide.
However, on a fateful night in August 2008, that familiar smile vanished, overtaken by a storm of distorted emotions. Driven by obsessive thoughts and a fractured sense of reality, Malil went to the home of his former partner, Kendra Beebe. What followed unfolded with shocking intensity, echoing the chaos of a nightmare rather than real life. In a moment of complete loss of control, his actions crossed an irreversible line, marking not only a devastating incident, but also the collapse of everything he had spent years trying to build.
Idols made of screens, they're human hearts with human schemes. Hold your hero.
Against all odds, Kendra survived the ordeal. She not only reclaimed her life from the edge of tragedy, but later stood in a courtroom, confronting a person who had once been part of her world, now revealed through his most destructive choices. The sentence handed down, severe and life-altering, effectively closed the door on Malil's time in Hollywood. More than a single case, this story stands as a sobering reflection on the dangers of unchecked emotions, the silent reality of harm within close relationships, and how, in rare but devastating moments, a public image built on humor can unravel under the weight of inner turmoil.
No applause can save a soul that chose to misbehave. Don't worship idols.
Michael Jace, a gifted actor best remembered for his powerful performance in the crime drama The Shield, made a strong impact through his portrayal of Officer Julian Lowe, a principled figure navigating intense inner conflict while trying to hold on to his moral compass in a world clouded by corruption. The role showcased Jace's emotional depth and restraint, earning him recognition and elevating his status within the industry as an actor capable of bringing complexity and nuance to the screen.
Keep the art, but name the harm. We'll break the spell, disarm the charm.
Yet in a cruel twist of irony, once the spotlight faded, Michael Jace found himself living out a narrative far darker than any role he had portrayed on screen. Financial strain, unresolved obligations, and the slow quiet that followed the end of The Shield gradually closed in around him, creating a sense of constant confinement. Over time, these accumulating pressures transformed his private world into a fragile environment charged with tension, as if everything were balanced on the edge, waiting for a moment when restraint could no longer hold.
Voice breaks the chain behind the spotlight. We finally know.
On the 19th of May 2014, the fragile balance finally collapsed. During an intense confrontation with his wife, April Jace, in the presence of their two young children, Michael Jace made a sudden and irreversible decision that ended a life and reshaped many others forever. What followed, including a recorded emergency call in which he acknowledged his actions with unsettling calm, left a lasting echo far beyond that moment. It marked a definitive turning point, sealing a future defined not by roles or applause, but by consequences that could never be undone.
Feel safe, help others breathe. If you know truth, don't hide, don't leave.
From once embodying ideals of duty and integrity, Jace's life shifted into a reality defined by irreversible harm, leaving 2 children to grow up without a mother and a father facing decades behind bars. His story stands as a profound tragedy not only for a family torn apart, but also as a solemn reminder of what can happen when inner pressure, left unaddressed, overwhelms judgment and transforms personal struggle into lasting devastation.
No applause can save a soul that chose to misbehave. Don't worship idols.
We begin with a name that may not belong to Hollywood's top tier, yet her story captured widespread attention: Shannon Richardson. Viewers of popular series like The Walking Dead or The Vampire Diaries may recognize her from brief but noticeable appearances, marking her as a rising presence searching for opportunity in the heart of the industry. But her aspirations extended far beyond the screen. Beneath a seemingly warm and approachable exterior, there existed a far more complex inner world, one shaped by intention, secrecy, and unsettling resolve.
Let the truth be louder than the fame.
In 2013, the name Shannon Richardson suddenly dominated national headlines not for a breakthrough performance, but for a case that stunned the public. Authorities uncovered a series of suspicious letters linked to an extremely hazardous substance, raising alarms across the United States. What made the situation even more unsettling was that these messages were directed not at ordinary citizens, but at some of the country's most influential leaders, including President Barack Obama and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. The discovery revealed a calculated scheme aimed at figures of immense power, transforming a little-known actress into the center of a case that captured the nation's attention and exposed how hidden intentions can surface in the most unexpected places.
Let the truth be louder than the fame. Let the victim voices like
Her attempt to escape accountability relied on misdirection, as she initially presented herself as someone caught in circumstances beyond her control, shifting suspicion toward those closest to her. Yet the process of investigation gradually dismantled that narrative. Digital traces and forensic findings quietly closed in, revealing inconsistencies that could no longer be ignored. Each piece of evidence pointed back to her own actions, leaving no room for denial. By July 2014, a lengthy prison sentence brought a definitive end to her ambitions on screen, cementing her story as a cautionary example of how misplaced ambition, distorted thinking, and the desire for influence can lead to irreversible consequences within the world of entertainment.
let the truth be louder than the fame. Let the victim voices like the flame.
Shannon Richardson's case stands as a sobering reminder of how illusions of power can distort judgment and how far a person can descend when ambition eclipses reason. Her story also mirrors a deeper, unsettling truth within the entertainment world. Behind the glow of recognition and aspiration, some individuals become lost in the pursuit of significance, choosing destructive paths that ultimately lead to lasting and life-altering consequences.
One brave voice breaks the chain behind the spotlight.
Jeffrey Jones stood out as a highly recognizable presence in Hollywood throughout the 1,980 seconds and 1,990 seconds. Born in Buffalo, New York, he left a lasting mark through a series of memorable performances, from the sharply comedic Principal Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off to the unconventional and eccentric father figure in Beetlejuice. His portrayal of Emperor Joseph II in Amadeus further elevated his reputation, earning both audience admiration and critical praise. At the height of his career, Jones was widely seen as a versatile performer, capable of bringing complexity, nuance, and emotional weight to every role he inhabited.
Darkest room can change when one brave voice breaks the chain behind
However, that seemingly unshakable career began to unravel in 2002, when authorities uncovered Jones's connection to a deeply troubling legal case. The allegations involved illegal materials and a grave violation of trust connected to young individuals, revelations that sent shockwaves through the public. The contrast was stark and unsettling. A performer long associated with figures of authority and respect, on screen was now exposed through actions that stood in direct opposition to those roles, leaving audiences grappling with disbelief and a profound sense of disillusionment.
If you feel safe, help others breathe. If you know truth, don't hide, don't leave.
In 2003, Jones accepted responsibility in court and received a probationary sentence that extended for several years. Yet the most enduring consequence was not measured in time, but in identity, a permanent legal designation that followed him beyond the courtroom and into every aspect of life. Almost overnight, the industry that once embraced him withdrew its support. Opportunities disappeared, collaborations dissolved, and Hollywood created an unspoken distance. The applause faded, replaced by silence, marking the quiet collapse of a career that had once stood at its peak. Now remembered as a cautionary example of how swiftly public trust can vanish when personal actions betray the image on screen.
If you feel safe, help others breathe. If you know truth, don't hide, don't leave.
From a performer once admired for his skill and presence, Jeffrey Jones became a figure the public no longer wished to embrace. The body of work he spent years building now exists beneath a heavy shadow, reshaped by actions that forever altered how he is remembered. His story stands as a somber lesson about how personal choices can eclipse professional achievement, and how the hidden sides of individuals often surface only when the carefully constructed image can no longer be sustained.
No applause can save a soul that chose to misbehave. Don't worship idols.
Ryan Grantham, once seen as a rising young talent in Canadian television, stunned the entertainment world when his name became linked to a deeply tragic case. Known to audiences through appearances in Riverdale and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, he seemed to stand at the beginning of a promising path. Yet beneath that outward potential, an unseen inner struggle was quietly unfolding. Persistent emotional strain, isolation, and unresolved mental turmoil gradually closed in, drawing him into a private darkness that few around him were able to perceive or understand in time.
Let the truth be louder than the fame. Let the victim.
In March 2020, Ryan Grantham crossed a point of no return through an act that defied comprehension, taking the life of his own mother, Barbara Waite, within the quiet familiarity of their home. The event sent waves of disbelief through those who knew him and through the wider community. Yet what deepened the sense of alarm was not only what had already occurred, but the disturbing intentions that surfaced about what he had envisioned next, revealing a mindset that had drifted far beyond the reach of reason.
They win. And if you've fallen, hear this.
When authorities intervened, the situation revealed an even more alarming dimension. Investigators uncovered signs of a carefully imagined plan aimed far beyond his immediate surroundings, involving preparations and intentions that pointed toward a high-profile public figure at the national level. The scope of what had been contemplated sent shockwaves through the country. Yet, before that scenario could unfold, something within him shifted, whether hesitation, conscience, or fear, leading him to abandon the plan and surrender himself to law enforcement, bringing the unfolding threat to an end before further harm could occur.
Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
Ryan Grantham's story stands as a deeply tragic reflection on what can happen when inner struggles go unseen and unsupported. It highlights the fragile balance between potential, identity, and emotional stability, showing how quickly that balance can collapse without timely care. The narrative underscores a sobering truth when mental distress is left unaddressed. The distance between promise and irreversible harm can narrow in ways that are both unsettling and devastating, reminding us of the urgent need for awareness, compassion, and early intervention.
We used to trust every smile they chose. Flashbulbs like stars.
What are your thoughts on this viewpoint? If it resonates with you, leave a 1. If not, drop a 0 below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Stay with us as we continue uncovering more compelling stories, and feel free to join the discussion. Your perspective helps shape deeper, more meaningful conversations.
Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
Schuyler DeLeon, born in 1979, is a name tied to a story shaped by ambition and irreversible choices. His early years mirrored the dreams shared by countless children. A brief appearance in the iconic series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 5 An Msionyan. Though the role was small and without dialogue, it was enough to spark powerful fantasies of Hollywood success. In his mind, that moment signaled the beginning of fame and an elevated life. Yet as time unfolded, the distance between expectation and reality grew wider, setting the stage for a path far removed from the dreams that once inspired him.
Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
As his brief time in front of the camera slipped quietly into obscurity, DeLeon found himself drifting away from any meaningful artistic pursuit. Instead of accepting a modest reality or rebuilding from the ground up, his sense of disappointment hardened into something more corrosive. Financial strain and broken illusions gradually reshaped his thinking, narrowing his choices and distorting his judgment. Rather than turning toward an ordinary, honest path, he gravitated toward decisions driven by desperation and ego, embracing a direction defined not by creativity or effort, but by reckless intent and a willingness to cross boundaries in pursuit of hollow goals.
Like stars on a velvet night. But shadows move.
Schuyler DeLeon's life ultimately became a stark illustration of how ambition, when stripped of empathy and restraint, can descend into something profoundly destructive. His actions sent shockwaves far beyond his own world, leaving behind a sobering lesson about the price of unchecked desire and inflated self-perception. What began as misplaced dreams gradually eroded his sense of humanity, guiding him away from conscience and toward a void shaped by choices that could not be undone.
The curtain rose. We used to trust every
Few revelations in modern culture carried the same weight as the moment Bill Cosby's carefully crafted image began to unravel. For nearly 50 years, he was far more than a comedian. He was widely embraced as America's dad. Through his portrayal of Dr. Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show, he embodied an ideal, intelligent, warm, humorous, and deeply devoted to family. That character challenged long-standing stereotypes and reshaped how a successful black family was portrayed on television, earning trust across generations. Week after week, households of every background welcomed him into their living rooms, believing they were watching not just entertainment, but a symbol of shared values and aspiration.
Every smile they chose. Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
Beyond television, Cosby positioned himself as a moral voice of his era, authoring books on character, delivering lectures on personal responsibility, and receiving numerous honorary degrees from respected institutions. His influence within Hollywood felt untouchable, reinforced by decades of admiration and authority. Yet beneath the familiar image of warmth and wisdom existed a far more troubling reality. That carefully maintained facade began to fracture in 2014, when a casual but courageous remark by comedian Hannibal Buress on a comedy stage publicly challenged the long-standing narrative. In that moment, questions that had lingered in silence for years were suddenly thrust into the open, setting in motion a reckoning that would forever alter Cosby's legacy.
But shadows move when you kill the light.
Those words acted like a single spark dropped onto dry ground. Long suppressed voices, silenced for decades by fear and imbalance of power, began to emerge one after another. The number grew steadily, revealing a disturbing consistency in their accounts. A familiar pattern appeared: admiration met with influence, opportunity paired with authority. He positioned himself as a guide, a supporter, someone to trust. Then came subtle gestures presented as harmless, ordinary, even benevolent. What followed shattered the illusion, exposing how status and access had been used to blur boundaries and conceal actions that should never have remained hidden for so long.
We used to cheer when
In truth, what had been presented as harmless substances were later understood to have incapacitating effects, When awareness faded, the trusted public persona collapsed, revealing conduct that stood in stark opposition to everything he represented on screen. The legal proceedings that followed reached far beyond a single individual, becoming a defining moment tied to the broader Me Too awakening. In 2018, the image of a once revered cultural figure escorted away by authorities symbolized the close of a long-standing illusion. And while a procedural ruling led to his release in 2021, that outcome did not rewrite the accounts that surfaced or erase the weight of what had already come to light.
When the curtain rose, we used to trust.
In the court of public memory, the beloved character Cliff Huxtable quietly vanished. Institutions moved swiftly to distance themselves. Honors were withdrawn, monuments removed, and a once-celebrated show faded from rotation. What remains is no longer associated with humor or nostalgia, but with reflection and accountability. The story leaves behind a difficult lesson that public images can be carefully crafted, and admiration should never replace critical awareness, especially when the truth demands empathy for those whose voices were ignored for far too long.
We used to cheer when the curtain rose.
If Bill Cosby's collapse felt like a sudden detonation, Stephen Collins's story unfolded more like a quiet blade, slowly cutting through the trust of an entire generation. To audiences in the 1,990 seconds, Collins was the very heart of Seventh Heaven, one of the longest-running family dramas in American television history. Through his role as Pastor Eric Camden, he represented warmth, moral guidance, and spiritual calm. He was portrayed as the ideal father, the dependable husband, a figure of reassurance in living rooms across the country. That gentle image, framed by faith and sincerity, came to symbolize innocence and moral certainty, making what later emerged all the more unsettling.
We used to trust every smile they chose.
But in 2014, that carefully protected image collapsed almost instantly. There were no whispers or distant allegations. It was his own recorded voice that brought everything to light. A private audio recording from a therapy session with his former spouse unexpectedly surfaced, sending shockwaves through the public. In that recording, listeners were stunned to hear the calm, familiar tone associated with a trusted television father, acknowledging actions that stood in complete opposition to the values he once portrayed. The contrast between the role he embodied and the reality revealed was deeply unsettling, forever altering how audiences remembered him.
We used to trust every smile they chose. Flashbulbs like
He went on to acknowledge a pattern of deeply inappropriate conduct involving young individuals, spanning several years. What unsettled the public even more was the detached tone in which these admissions were delivered, at times framed with explanations that failed to reflect the seriousness of the harm involved. The reaction was swift and decisive. Television networks moved to distance themselves, pulling Seventh Heaven from their schedules almost immediately. The fallout extended far beyond one person, casting a long shadow over an entire production and demonstrating how the actions of a single individual can irreversibly fracture trust and alter the legacy of many others.
every smile they chose. Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
Once regarded as a symbol of respectability, Stephen Collins retreated from public life as the truth reshaped how he was perceived. His acknowledgments surfaced long after any legal action could be pursued, leaving consequences to unfold outside the courtroom. While no prison sentence followed, the judgment of the public proved enduring. His professional standing dissolved, his reputation collapsed, and his name became inseparable from a painful chapter in television history. The story endures as a sobering reminder that appearances can mislead, and that those who seem most virtuous may sometimes be concealing realities that emerge only when the mask can no longer hold.
Flashbulbs like stars on a velvet night.
More than just a rapper, Diddy stood for decades as a symbol of cultural influence, a music architect who built the Bad Boy Records empire and helped define the look, sound, and ambition that shaped an entire generation. His reach extended far beyond music, touching luxury spirits, fashion, and notable film appearances such as Monsters Ball and get him to the Greek. To many, he represented a powerful version of the American dream success earned through vision, drive, and resilience. Yet in 2024, that seemingly unshakable image was suddenly confronted by serious public controversies, causing the once solid fortress of admiration and certainty to fracture in ways few had anticipated.
But shadows move when you kill the light.
What began as quiet rumors surrounding extravagant private gatherings soon escalated into something far more serious. The turning point came when his former partner, Cassie Ventura, brought forward a civil lawsuit that contained deeply troubling allegations. Although the case was resolved in a short time, it triggered a much broader reckoning. The situation intensified when security footage later surfaced, depicting a disturbing confrontation in a hotel corridor. That moment erased the remaining distance between speculation and reality, profoundly altering public perception and dismantling the carefully maintained image that had stood for decades.
But shadows move when you kill the light.
In September 2024, global attention intensified when federal authorities, including the FBI and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, conducted coordinated searches at two of Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami. According to official filings, investigators described findings that went far beyond rumors, outlining patterns they alleged were hidden behind the image of entertainment and influence. The subsequent indictment presented a narrative that reframed him not as a cultural figure, but as someone authorities claim operated within a network involving exploitation and coercion under federal racketeering statutes, allegations that dramatically redefined how the public viewed his legacy while the legal process moved forward.
We used to cheer when the curtain rose.
Prosecutors alleged that he orchestrated a series of exclusive gatherings described as elaborate, multi-day events where control, excess, and coercion blurred into something far more troubling. According to filings, participants were placed in vulnerable situations through manipulation and impairment, all framed under the illusion of elite entertainment for select guests. One detail that stunned observers was the sheer volume of seized household products linked to these events, a detail that, while mundane on its own, suggested an operation of unexpected scale and organization, intensifying public disbelief over how far the hidden reality was said to extend. At present, Diddy remains in federal custody in Brooklyn, with courts repeatedly declining release requests after prosecutors argued he posed serious risks related to public safety and interference with the legal process. As the case continues, the outcome carries extraordinary stakes. Should the allegations be upheld in court, the figure once celebrated as a symbol of dominance and success could face a sentence that would effectively end his freedom, sealing the fate of an empire built on wealth, influence, and image, and underscoring how swiftly power can collapse when scrutiny replaces silence. Leaving behind the chaos and public uproar tied to Diddy, we turn to a story that unfolded far more quietly, yet carried its own deep sense of sorrow, the case of Oh Young-soo. To audiences around the world, he was forever Player 001, Oh Il-nam, from the global phenomenon Squid Game. With his gentle expressions, crooked smile, and subtle mastery of performance, he resonated powerfully with viewers. At the age of 77, Oh Young-soo experienced an unexpected rise to international fame, making history by becoming the first Korean actor to win a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, a moment that symbolized both late recognition and artistic legacy.
Till someone speaks and you're not alone.
He was celebrated as a symbol of modesty, a late-blooming talent whose quiet brilliance finally received global recognition. Yet that moment of admiration proved fragile. Just as his acclaim reached its height, unresolved matters from years earlier resurfaced. A woman stepped forward with an account dating back to 2017, during a period when he was touring with a theater production. According to her statement, what began as an ordinary walk crossed personal boundaries, involving unwanted physical closeness that left a lasting emotional impact. The revelation cast a sudden shadow over a legacy that many had only just begun to admire.
Let the truth be louder than the fame. Let the victim voices light the flame.
At first, Oh Young-soo firmly rejected the accusations, explaining that his actions were misunderstood and describing them as a brief, non-harmful gesture meant only to guide someone along the way. He later stated that any apology offered was intended to ease discomfort, not to acknowledge wrongdoing. However, the court ultimately did not accept this explanation. In March 2024, a final judgment was issued, resulting in a custodial sentence that was suspended, along with mandatory participation in a corrective education program. The ruling marked a decisive moment, signaling that even long-standing reputations and late-earned acclaim are not beyond accountability when personal boundaries are found to have been crossed.
Beneath the rhyme, but every echo finds its way, and every night becomes...
The ruling may not place an elderly man behind prison walls, but it delivered a decisive blow to his public standing. In the aftermath, projects quietly cut ties, promotional materials vanished, and future appearances dissolved almost overnight. The figure once viewed as a warm, familiar presence was abruptly reclassified under a far more troubling label. His story ends on a somber note, a reminder that creative achievement does not grant exemption from accountability, and that actions from the past, when revisited, can redefine an entire legacy, even at the very end of a long and celebrated journey.
Doesn't make them fine. If you feel safe, help others breathe.
We've now peeled back the layers to reveal the unsettling stories hidden behind figures once held in admiration. These revelations have reshaped how many people perceive fame, influence, and the images carefully presented to the public. Did any of these accounts surprise you? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know which Hollywood figure you'd like us to explore next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more eye-opening stories ahead.